Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a look at something pretty specific, one player's impressions of Elden Ring Nightreign.
Yeah, this is based on notes they shared after, what was it, about 20 hours of playing?
That's right, 20 hours in. And our mission for this deep dive really is to unpack some maybe surprising insights from that experience.
Especially around how the game seems to nudge players towards certain social interactions and, the different ways people actually find satisfaction in playing. It's not always just about winning.
Okay, right, let's get into it then. So the first thing that really jumped out at me from their notes was the difficulty. Bosses sound brutal.
Oh, definitely. They mentioned facing multiples, bosses summoning help, even splitting into more enemies. It sounds like trying to solo that would be, well, extremely tough.
Yeah, punishing is the word they used. But it sounds like this difficulty isn't just for show.
Exactly. It seems like it's sort of engineered to create a need for helping each other out. Like the game wants you to actively help teammates who are down or in trouble.
And they talked about the feeling that creates.
Hmm.
Being saved mid-fight, often by someone taking a real risk. Apparently, that fosters this really strong sense of gratitude.
Intense gratitude. And importantly, it wasn't just a quick thanks. They described it as creating this natural urge to return the favor, to pay it forward.
They even use this phrase, purifying the soul.
Yeah, which is quite a statement. This cycle of helping and being helped, they saw it as genuinely valuable, maybe particularly for players who, don't get that kind of mutual support often in their day-to-day lives.
That's fascinating, tying a game mechanic directly to something that feels, well, that personal.
Right.
Okay, so moving on from intense rescues, another way a connection happened was surprisingly much simpler, like just using the map.
It sounds almost trivial, doesn't it? Marking a spot on a map.
Yeah, but they described this scenario.
Yeah.
One player marks a spot, and the person writing the notes felt like, yes, that's right, an instinctual agreement.
And what did they do then?
They reinforced it. They marked the same spot. Like a silent, I agree, let's go here.
Ah, okay. And the feeling that simple action generated is what's interesting. Seeing that first mark felt like encountering a good commander, someone with direction.
And reinforcing it, that felt like getting a
Mhm.
like on social media, but more immediate maybe.
A nonverbal thumbs up, essentially.
Yeah.
And they even noticed a third player seemed to gain confidence just seeing those two aligned marks. It provided clarity.
It just shows how even really minimal interactions can build that sense of alignment, that team chemistry,
Right.
without anyone saying a word.
It's about finding those simple ways to feel connected and on the same page. That shared understanding builds trust fast.
Okay, so this last point really caught my eye. It kind of pushes against the usual hero story in games. This player talked about finding real joy as a follower.
Right, this was interesting. They mentioned they'd finished the original Elden Ring, but relied heavily on summons. They admitted they weren't like a top-tier solo
Right.
player against bosses.
So knowing Nightreign was going to be tough, they made a very conscious choice. They went for a support class. Iron Eye, I think it was.
Yeah, class designed more for assisting, not necessarily leading the charge or doing the main damage.
And they loved it. They found real satisfaction in, following the groove, adding supporting fire, and maybe most importantly, being the one to save teammates when things got rough.
They didn't need to be the commander or the main fighter. The enjoyment came from fulfilling that specific supportive role effectively.
It really highlights that in these collaborative games, satisfaction isn't one size fits all, is it?
Not at all. Leading is one kind of satisfaction, sure, but enabling the team, ensuring survival, being the reliable backup that offers a completely different but just as valid kind of reward, it's a different way to feel accomplished.
So if we pull all these threads together, you've got the difficulty pushing people to help, this rapport built on tiny map interactions, and then finding joy in not being the leader. What's the bigger picture here?
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it tell us, maybe about us or about good game design, that these kinds of experiences resonate so much? Risking something for a stranger online, feeling connected through a simple map ping, finding deep satisfaction in a supporting role.
Yeah.
It maybe suggests that the ways we connect, the ways we find value and meaning are perhaps much broader and more varied than just focusing on individual achievement or being the star, both in games and maybe, outside them too.
Definitely something to think about. Hopefully this deep dive into one player's quite specific experience is giving you some interesting things to consider. Thanks for joining us.